Okay, on to TOC2, turn 2 here. The size of the decks is such that all the remaining cards from 1918 get dealt out to both the players. So there are no surprises. In the first 2 turns you'll get all your cards. I didn't realize that. I figured it would be at least 3 turns of them. And then also getting the bluff and initiative cards going into the political phase. Make decisions. You know, how much is it important to be doing stuff on the board compared to prepping the later game? That's a hard call. I like to build for a later game. I was feeling like, gee, I was doing okay with white in terms of massing forces, etc. But I'm not so convinced because I haven't gained anything from it. And from what I understand from the Comrade's Guide, I should have done better already. If I do that, though, the Tsar has to be disposed of. He should have already died by now, historically. However, they take care of him in turn 2 as kind of a, hey, was he saved before the game, essentially. Now, white has the option to play an action card to try to save him, but he's got to control the Czech Legion, which isn't the case here. And this card number 1 couldn't have been played. Now, since I don't have the Czech Legion, I'm not going to get a shot at this, but otherwise, I'd play a card and that would influence my chance of how likely it is for the Tsar to survive. Now, it says all other including 0 means that there is a chance, I guess, if I don't play a card. So either I'm going to play a big card or I don't do anything. This is Don Caucasus table. Oh, that's if they're caught outside their home region later in the game. Okay, so we can just remove the Tsar and these extra Romanov armies which come in the supplement to give a little added oomph to the decision. It's chosen their cards, and like before, they kind of went big on points, although in the other region they're throwing their bluff to try to prevent anything too random from happening from there. I understand there's possible desire for that. For white, they're planning on actually reducing their card play. They're going to throw the Kolchak's coup. I'm just not viewing Siberia as the viable option at this point in the game. I want to concentrate in the south, I think, right now. And this gets rid of my Czech Legion when I play it. Unfortunately, it also generates an extra army in the east. But the red just doesn't look as proportionally weak there right now. If we ignore the Czech Legion, I just don't feel like I'm going to be able to do much there. Now, the negative for this is that this is required for some of these army control markers. Now, but I'm going to use this as a political card, keep the other points, and none of the events really appeal to me too much. I think I'm going to be using almost everything for action cards here. I don't remember how many actions I have. Oh, what are these? Oh, these are cards I definitely wanted to hold on to. They both looked good. Because maybe I want to play more valuable cards. Just because I can't hold all my cards. Although I could hold a particularly useful one. I'm only allowed 6 action rounds. I've got 2 there that I think I want to play. 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could dump a card. Now this could be my way of getting rid of a 2-point card that I don't think I'm going to want. I don't know whether or not I'm getting any factions or whether there's this unlikely possibility that I might want to try to throw a bunch of green units down. They could be used to kind of cut off the reds and force them back. Both are appealing prospects in some ways. These cards I definitely want to keep. The question is there one of these that I don't particularly want to keep? Do I think I'm going to get a faction? You know, I actually don't. So I'll put that in the must, in the will plays. And then the thing is, I can't get rid of this card unless I play it somewhere. So maybe I want to play it rather than not. I don't know whether to focus on red or white with my big card. Of course, I could focus on the randoms. So I think what I'll do is 1 or 2 on red, 3, 4, 5 on white, 6 on the random. All right, so that's going to go in the white deck. I might as well get rid of this. This isn't a card I necessarily want next time. I'm going to put this in the white, and I'm going to put my bluff over on the red. And I think that's where I want to go. And what I end up with for picks, the bluff only has a 1 value. I thought I had a 0. A big 9 in the white, where the advantage is slightly mine, and a 3 over here. So, well, we see this here. We got the PC generation here. So what we're going to see is with a 6-point card with a 4-point difference, that's going to be 2 cards go to red out of the red deck. That sounds pretty powerful. Out of the 9 to 10 for the whites, there's going to be 3 cards total, but only 1 white gets to pick. And then here, it's going to be 1 card that white gets to pick out of the random deck. The fact that it's 1 card that white gets to pick means it's not going to be one of the real randomizer cards. Those are at those require a random pick, so I'd have to have chosen the same number card red got to have a chance of that, or chose a higher number that allowed me some random picks. Not too much higher. So I want to be within range of him. And you can kind of guesstimate where you're going to be with this. If I had thrown a 3-point card instead, we would have been up here, and it would have been 2 ahead, and I would have gotten to pick them both again. Presumably could be very helpful. All right, let's figure out what we got. Well, selection-wise, red picked a couple that look like they generate a lot of points, and more importantly, some red replacement steps, and then this one, Don Cossacks cannot use leadership capabilities. White selected the one that looked the best for them, which was Churchill, which produces replacement steps. This other one here also produces the Ukrainian Galician army replacement steps, but white didn't pick it, so that's not going to produce for them. That's something you got to be kind of careful about. But white picked this Russian roulette, which is going to allow them to randomly kill one of these red cards, put it back in the deck. Well, randomly replace it, and then it goes back in the deck. So some other card other than the ones red won it will go in there, and that's kind of a powerful option. And that uses up this action, and it may not matter again, because the size of the decks, these may not run through during the important stage of the game. First of all, there's only 9 turns where there's a political stage at all. And secondly, as factions become committed, they can't uncommit through the political process as easily. I know there's a space on here that says 3 out of the control box, but in general, my understanding is once they have troops on the board, you can't convert them using the political chart. I've got to get more familiar with that rule to be certain what we're talking about. Look at the cards. We get 2 free white replacement steps. We were counting on that. And now, in terms of the effect, they look fairly limited. We got some big white support for things Ukraine think that's the Western. No, that's, yeah, West Ukraine. Actually, Mac now too, but he's being countered there, and that'll knock that out. Over here, Turkestan looks like it's countered there. The Transcaucasus, but that's already in Red's hands, isn't it? I think so. If I can figure this thing out. Yeah, the Transcaucasus is already in Red's hands, so that's not really an issue. So we'll see where things kind of push there. Of course, the Transcaucasus could leave because it's still under Turkish control. There's no military force there yet. All right, let's see what the end result is after we shift things, if any new factions fall into play. Oh boy. All right, so let's see if I can remember who. I had points on someone over here. Finland. Well, maybe it was Finland. I had a couple of points on them. That got canceled out because there was a 1-point conversion to Finland. So the 2 points that I had invested in them, they didn't do me any good. They didn't really cancel anything useful out. On the other hand, the point that I had invested in Astrakhan, well, the cards ended up generating lots of Astrakhan points. And with this over here, now with the secret, yeah, they're going to be in play, and I've got to set them up. I also have to set the Brits up. They just entered into play here. The problem I have with them is I have to figure out whether the Ironsides unit comes in. It's got a V on it. It's not listed over here that I see. And I don't know how the hell it's supposed to come into play if it's not through activation. That's what I thought it would be. And then, yeah, the Astrakhan forces. Other than that, nothing too major. Things like the Czech Legion moved a little bit towards white. That would have been a problem. If Kolchak came in, the Czech Legion probably would, they would have probably never been a white-controlled faction. I do have this restriction, though, that I've got to remember, if I can. Krasnov's my only Don Cossacks leader. And he's going to be incapable of using any of his abilities this turn, which is an important factor there. All right, let me try to set these new factions up. Here's another thing. You know, this gives disposition, 1 corps in Murmansk, 3 in Archangel, and 1 in Strategic Reserve. But the corps are different. Now, one of them says Archangel, so I guess that goes there. But I'm not sure whether or not I have control over these choices. And again, I have to look in the supplement to figure that out, as well as get rid of the... I don't know. There's very little support in the Comrade's Guide for the new leader cards and counters. The card itself doesn't say anything. It's an NC. These cards were in the original game. That's just to let you know. It's not here. The fact that it has a V on it, to me, means something causes it to come into play. It's not a purchase card. So the only something I can think of is the Brits coming in. And I don't see it as being too big a deal. Red's not that terribly interested in charging up there at this point, although it does lose them, not a victory point, but an important box in both cases. I don't know how much that... you're not going to see a lot of U.S.-British forces coming down out of Murmansk to do anything. Actually, is that Archangel? Should he be an Archangel? Yeah, he should be an Archangel. Murmansk is where the U.S. is. The fact that those are square means something. They're like off-board boxes type things. They have, I think, higher stacking restrictions, if I recall correctly. It's not too important, to tell you the truth. Again, I don't see those as being real places where anybody's going to make any great effort. It takes turns to travel there. It's just way out of the way, as it really is. I mean, there's not a lot that the Brits or US are going to do from the far north, I don't think. What do we got here? There's some Victory Point city that I don't know about. Anyway, I think it's time for me to get to work. The White Army's managed a massive attack on Trotsky to start things off, spending a 4-point card. They used it all for that, shifted some additional troops, some elite troops up into place. They destroyed Trotsky's force. Now, I haven't taken the casualties on. They're going to take 4 themselves, which I have to allocate. And I'm not quite sure how I want to do that. But Trotsky's got a possibility of being killed here, which is if he rolls higher than his leadership. His leadership is a 4. He's killed, and he's worth several victory points, so that could be an issue. He's okay, so then he retreats 2 spaces. And 2 spaces is tough. I've got to find a place where I'm not going to get killed. Unfortunately, there are routes to him, and they could automatically destroy him. So I'm going to have to actually spend an activation to get Trotsky out of here. I may have to rail move him or something, but I'm losing some serious ground here with a chance of an exploit move for whatever that's worth. That doesn't give me another attack. It just gives me a chance to kind of push into here from there, which would add extra threat against the Stalin stack here. I don't know how much value that is. My Cossacks had no cav with them, so there was no real danger there. I took some losses. They're really getting kind of chewed up here, to the point where they're going to have to... I've got to spend some points on replacements and try to rebuild this army. It's going to be tough to force my way forward, but I may have to give this sucker up this turn. I just don't see an easy way that the Reds can defend this location, get Trotsky out of here, even to there. But in order to defend this, I need to maintain routes. I'd have to move up into here, and I'd have to cover this space to have anything resembling a front line. That would work because there's no crossing here. I really dislike point to point because it's so much trouble to try to figure out where I actually have to be. Areas work so much better for me. And the Reds indeed play a quick 2-point card. Now this could be useful. It's faction replacements. They have a faction with Astrakhan, but I was having trouble deciding on a way to spend more action points. Moving other units, yes, I could launch an attack over in Finland, but most of my other cards, this one would generate some additional troops. This one I'm kind of interested in getting the new army, turning a white army into, what is it, the Grigoriev army. That sounds pleasant. White infighting I want to play for the event, I think. Both sides have their infighting on the card. Recruits, yeah, I need troops. I need them badly. And then, this doesn't look terribly interesting to me. No faction can move to control for the remainder of the action phase and the next political phase. It could be valuable, but I don't feel like the white factions are really becoming terribly interesting until the Germans get out of there. So I think I'm going to hold this. It's a big 5-point card. I'd kind of like to have that kind of points in my deck. And one of the things I learned from playing some CDGs of this type, like Paths of Glory, is, hey, you really don't want to trim your deck of the good cards unless you got a real good reason. So that's where we are right now, with the Reds having abandoned this city. It's still in their hands. The whites can just move into it though and take it. Bit of a lull in the action. White couldn't see something where they really had an advantage on the board that they wanted to take it in place, mainly because there's two armies that were present here. So they played for replacement points and grabbed themselves 4 more, and you can see they've got a lot coming to them. Red, on the other hand, dropped their recruits down. They feel like they're really being pressured here. The influence of the Ukraine isn't going to help them terribly in the short run, whereas they're in some real threat if they don't get troops into play. So they got a Cheka Corps, which serves a couple of reasons. One is it can roll that no retreat. That's what the NR stands for. In order to prevent it from having to retreat in combat, along with the armies that are with it. But it can also sometimes affect political matters within those units. I think it has effect on propaganda and some other things, and certainly on some cards I've seen it. So it's overall a positive thing for the Reds, but it can cause some negative effects. And then 2 red armies over here on Saratov. This is powerful because I've got to cover these spaces. There's kind of an opening there. Not enough room for white to do a major serious outflank, which is why white didn't go. With 4 movement, could I have 1, 2, 3, 4? I could make it up to here to Tambov. What does that skull and crossbones mean? A white insurrection army can occur there, I guess. Whatever that is. Presumably off cards, but I'm not positive. Like all things in this game. But anyway, I wouldn't have had an easy route in there anyway. I might have been able to bust through this and maybe get an exploit, but I don't think I have any cav kicking around down here. So it wasn't really much of an advantage there. The Don Cossack cav were there, but an exploit couldn't come off Krasnov because, well, he's been negated. All Don Cossack leaders were negated by this. So, you know, with proper movement, maybe I could have gotten Saratov, but I chose to expend kind of a recuperation phase because there's this limitation. You can only take these replacements every other round, and I have some reasonable reasons to want to upgrade my army. It's getting pretty battered there. But on the other hand, the Reds have been able to get some reinforcements in some key locations in exchange for that. It's hard to tell which way is more valuable. You know, whether the whites should have been pressing on. I've got mixed feelings right now. Because one thing is, I had better claim this. Otherwise, the Reds can come back down and grab a line across here and here and seal those off. So white is going to have to do a move, which is a shame because from their side they have some cards that they'd like to play for events. Concentration to allow them to take their replacements all where they need them over in the Don. The red infighting to start that process on the Reds. And these other cards I can probably use for points, but these I had really wanted to use. And now, you know, I'm kind of running out of activations, right? Always a challenge in these games, the decision of when to play cards and how to use them and everything. I gotta stop talking so much. Look at all. I haven't gotten very far at all. White with her weaknesses in kind of a tricky situation. I want to play this card, I really do. Also, I want to play this card. Both of these grant me some activations in addition to the card, which is kind of nice. And then I could take a replacements in addition. Now that leaves me still with a play and a card. So the question is what order to work in here. Now I've got some real threats. One is I need to take this. I need to secure the front once I take it. And I also need to get myself into position down here. I'd like to use, I think, this 5-pointer for my supply, for my replacement points. because my army is definitely tiring here. But that leaves me with very small movement cards. This one seems to be the best one to play first, and I'll leave it face up to remind me that I'm going to have that in play. Because I don't think there's a counter for that. I don't know. But that only gives me 2 activations. Now, one might be that I want to cover the Ostrakhan unit. And I don't know what I can get there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could get down to here, and that would pretty much block it out. There'd be no crossing from here. Another option would be this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not quite as good. That leaves something open. So, I guess, though I'm not sure I like this, I'm going to put a move marker here, and then, and I see this mult-act region, not must-act region. My poor eyes don't work very well. This will be the region that I could have had multiple actions in. Well, that's going to end up being the Don. I've been complying with the letter, with the actual rule. Now the question here is, what can I afford to move? Unfortunately, my troops are kind of spread out in an ugly position. But what I think the only thing that I can really afford to move is this one. Ooh, I'm going to open up a place there that I don't like. Yeah, I think I'm going to move these Cossacks from back here, which I can bring up 1, 2, and then, I can certainly move forward another space if I so desire, but I'm not sure that I really want to. Alright, now I'm going to get some things off of this. I got to remember what they are. You can get replacement points and something else, influence points, by capturing cities, and I don't remember which one you get. I think you get both if you capture a home city of the other player, but I don't remember which one I get here. I think it's just an influence point here. I'll have to. Yeah, it's just an influence point. The only place I can find it mentioned is in here, but it took a while to find, as usual. These rules just don't sink in for me at all. Anyway, I threw that over here in the Transcaucasus. Oops, this guy should be a move. I haven't moved him yet. 1, 2. Where to? Up to here? I can't really afford that. So we'll stop there. And I already, Russia lost a victory city, and White's gonna gain one. Or the Reds. They're all Russians. Yeah, but the Russians are the Red Russians. The other Russians are the fake Russians, right? Yeah. Anyway. That'll put it over to the red side for this sucker. I gotta be careful here. I'm gonna put, oops, not that. Oh, uh-oh. How about this one? I'm gonna put a control marker here to mark what the whites control. I can't just charge in with, I was thinking I wanted to do this. I can't just charge in with this Ostrakhan army and attack from here. I can only attack from an already controlled space. So I can grab some territory, but I can't launch an attack from that newly grabbed territory, which is an interesting little factor to the card decisions that I'm trying to make right now. I use the white infighting card to play it for the event. That's going to trigger white infighting. That starts next turn, where I'll be drawing a chit each turn. I gotta be annoying about this too, because I don't know where they are. There they are. They're going to go in a cup, and I draw one each turn for the effect. But anyway, I filled in a gap in the line. It kind of sucks to use an army for this, but on the bright side, I can maybe gain some advantage from that. That's not where I want an army particularly, but there was one kind of in reserve over here on the Czech border, the Czech, not the Czech border, but the Czech core area, which seemed like a good choice for a unit to pull out of play, since the Czechs really aren't anywhere near attacking. All right, I hope. They're up to neutral again. The white shifts their forces to face Stalin, actually, under Denikin here. And Stalin's got enough forces he could thump one of those. I don't know if I want to or not. What I'm looking at here is moving 2 armies into place here to try to retake this. A corps maybe here to block the passage elsewhere. Because otherwise I can't move both my armies down here. Of course, this becomes open if I do that. That's a risk there. Shit. Hard calls here in terms of properly filling the line while being able to take things out. Of course, no, I'm not going to... See, I can't get back here. That's the problem if I do that. Over here in Saratov, though, I've got a force that doesn't really need to move. 1, 2, 3. I could throw that into play instead. And I could launch an attack here. And Stalin could actually launch an attack against, say, these volunteers and try to break the line without advancing into it, just to open up a possible threat. Or he could advance one of his armies there. Interesting. Let's see what my balance comes out at. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to launch a 5-point attack, because I'd rather spend my 5-point card here than my 3-point card that I think I may need if things go badly. But here's what I'm looking at. A move here, a combat here across here, and a combat from here. I put these markers in. They should have been there. That is still red territory. Now, what I'd like for additional actions is to make a move and attack here against Krasnov. Now, maybe Stalin is not what I want to do, but here's the problem with any of this. Any of those actions, I can do I can do 2 attacks over here or 2 moves over here, but I can't do both. So it's, do I want the capital, the victory point city, or do I want to hit Krasnov and push him back? Pushing him back might put me in a position where I can cut off the Krasnov, so I'm not sure yet. I chose the option that seemed simplest, and Stalin attacked here. You can see he reduced it to a core. He actually lost the battle, but there's no chance of a counterattack without a leader being present. And over here we've taken Migilyanska. Now this falls from white to red, and that's worse than red to white. For one thing, I'm going to get the influence point. We know about that, but I also get a replacement point for taking a home white area. Now you can only gain one of these per turn, I believe. I hope it's not per round. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of effect there. But I also get an influence point that I can throw in somewhere. And I'll try to figure out where that's going to... Maybe I'm doing this wrong. There's a limit of 1 for both IP and RS bonus per specific victory city per turn. So it's not 1 per turn across the whole board. I'm not sure that I don't think I get an influence point here, because that limit, it's changed hands already. So let me take the influence point I was going to give there. Damned if I know that's what was meant, but, you know, it's a pretty minor thing. I could look that up, but I doubt the errata covers that. That's ambiguity there. Do they mean... The way it's worded, I'd say they mean 1 across all players, but that's kind of odd. So I consider it an ambiguity, even if it isn't. So the situation we're in now, I'm saying Stalin's got to go. So I'm launching my attack against him. I hope it works, because this becomes the bottleneck controlling part of this region. And then I've got an extra unit to slide. I've got a unit that I'm going to push over here into play. The rest of these are all attacking Stalin, and over here I'm going to launch a quick movement here. 1, What do I have? 3 movement points. I don't want to get caught over there too. Now, I'm close to out of supply here. Shit. This is just hard. See, if I give this up, now the reds can move up 1, 2, 3 and cut me off. That's what I wanted to do, but I don't think I can afford that shot. So I've got an extra action. I'm having to play a 5 card here, which I would have liked to use for additional reps, but I'm not sure I can go over 9 because this goes to restricted reps, whatever that means. Okay. So I don't know where else to drop a unit. I was going to move that one. These poor Siberian units could use replacements too. I'm just so weak over here because I haven't been concentrating. I don't have much I can move here anymore. I'll just shift these up against the Astrakhan line. That gives me some defenses there of some sort, I guess. I'm not sure. But I can't afford to launch the attack in Finland that I want to make. Although, yeah, I guess these are my supply sources. I could slide around here and attack all from there. You know, that makes more sense. Let's do that. And set myself up for an attack on Helsinki right there. That's a victory point city. It seems worth the attack. With White's failure against Stalin, bad die roll combination, as you can just see. He had good odds there. Now things look like it presents an opportunity for the Reds. Not as exciting a one as I thought, because this ain't a road, it's a river. Yeah, it's Wilderness War. Let's move down. I feel like I can turn an important flank here. I've gained a city. That's nice, but I think I can do more than that. The question is, what is the important flank? I've got some defense here. I don't know if Denikin can push through here. Not that, but some of these volunteer armies and the Galician army, they have a dot on them, which means they can't be recuperated once they're damaged. They're out for the count once they start taking hits. So I just feel like this is where I want to launch my attack, I think. Here's the problem. I could attack Krasnov on his own, and he has no abilities right now, so that's kind of interesting. I think Lenin versus Krasnov might be my action. I was able to do better than that. I had a switch sides card. At least as effective. The Grigoriev Cav has replaced. Now that replaced a damaged unit. Somehow I feel like, hey, maybe it should be a damaged unit that's going there, but I don't think so. I think whatever the defection is already accounted for in that. So the damaged Cossacks are over here now. And wow, we're racking up the losses. And now Krasnov is in real danger of being cut off himself. He's got to pull out of there, I think. This is a one-use card, so it goes in the pile. I think I need a little break before I finish this sucker. Actions off for the turn with Krasnov withdrawing back to Rostov. His damaged forces. Now that opens up a potential, but also the Finns launching an attack here on Helsinki and failing there as well. Bad die roll combination again. Very much in favor of the Reds. Firepower tables are so cool. I just like the way they proportion. They give you a bell curve of results, but they give it to you over the total of, damage to both sides. So you could have very, very damaging to both sides results. You could have results that are very weak to both sides, or you could have blowouts like this where Red wins an unreasonable victory. On the other hand, Red had a +2 defensive bonus for Helsinki, which does not help them. They get knocked down to the bottom of the chart. Well, you did as good as you could, which is kind of interesting too. I don't know about that. what was interesting here is with the retreat to Rostov, first of all, if you could just charge down and attack from an uncontrolled space, wow, that's what Lenin would be doing right now. Instead, though, he threw the points into here where I forgot to mark them. A big 5-point card that I threw into place. I don't really care about the factions yet. I do care about recuperating troops and maybe putting IPs on the factions. What the hell? If I'm going to spend a 5-point card, I might as well spend it to boost the likelihood the factions slide over to my side. Anyway, things are looking pretty bleak for the whites, I think, at this point already. With the Czech Corps out of commission, with the East not really developed yet, and with my big push here having been stymied completely. And now, both sides have significant reps to play. What is my order here? And there is a sequence of play over here, but it's hard for me to read that, so I like to look on the rules. So I don't think we have any lack out of supply units. I am very careful about that because it's pretty devastating, right? No factions conquested, no subjugation. Victory point total. Oh, red's still getting 2 more victory points this turn. That's continuing to push that forward. And then no automatic victory. Logistical inefficiencies. I always forget what this... I know it affects the replacement points. But it's a chart I don't have memorized or whatever. Ah, yes. It's based on the armies that aren't in the game yet. Okay. And now we get to spend. White has to go first. We got a pile of... The whites had the concentration cards, so they were able to place their replacements a little bit. Well, they were able to place them freely. Not necessarily everywhere they wanted to. You know, they really ought to improve these Siberians, too. I'm feeling myself limited by this. But I didn't do that. I built up the southern region again. And that's kind of bad because the Reds managed to build up their finish. And shit. Is that a 3? No, that was a 2, so this is reduced to. And the the Reds managed to build up their finish. And the whites had not built anything there. And the Reds also had enough points. They actually had more points on it. They threw 2 of them, and they repaired most of their units here, although Stalin, yeah, he took 1. I think I split 1 in 4 different areas. You have these kind of annoying choices in the sense of, okay, so for example, if I spent 4, I could do 2 in 2 regions or 1 in 4. If I went to 6, I'd have to do 2 in 3. If I did 5, I'd be limited to 3. So you've got really like specific amounts that you're allowed to do. Now you can fiddle with that a little bit by adding to your strategic reserve and saying that's one of these regions, but it doesn't really help. So anyway, I threw 2 points into the Czechs, but you see only 1 actually survived the die roll. I could actually have failed completely because now I've got the infighting in effect. So even though I'm leading in victory point total, I've got infighting, I think. Infighting doesn't take effect for the chit until next turn, but I think that's I think for this roll it counts. And you know, who cares? It's always kind of any game as a simulation is going to be a fuzzy area, and there's so much chaos going on here that a few little screw-ups aren't going to hurt much. I like that about a game. Okay, I think this one's gone long enough, so that's the end of turn 2. I'm hoping to be able to get multiple turns on a single video. I feel like I'm still going into way too much detail. Unfortunately, with the card-driven games, to some extent, so much of the decision-making, so much of the game is based on that agonizing over the card. Oh, look, there's a little square around Stalin's face on my camera thing. It's got this, like, facial recognition thing. It's really cool. To see what it thinks is a face. Usually it's my thumbnail or a counter. All right, let's load this one up.